Yay, the kids are finally asleep.
So do you feel like...
Playing a game?
I've got a feeling a boss fight's coming up.
Ooh, I just got wrecked.
Headshot, baby.
Ooh, it's your turn to get the baby.
So are you up to the challenge?
Run, 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 run.
And we're dead.
That's when I realized I have no idea what I'm doing.
GG.
Welcome to the KJ After Dark Gamer Parents podcast. My name is Joanne and I'm joined by my co-host, gamer husband, Kevin.
Hello. If it's your first time here, Joanne and I are a married couple. We have 2 kids and we love to game, and that's what it's all about here.
Yep.
If you wanted to follow along with kind of what we're up to, we do have a Twitter, an Instagram, Discord, and of course the YouTube channel where we have our streams, and we also upload these podcast episodes. Speaking of the streams, last week's stream we had Gang Beast, which was interesting for about 5 minutes, and then right around the time I started to lose a little bit of interest in it, we started having some technical issues, and then it wouldn't even get us into a game, so it didn't really last long, huh?
Yeah, and then we switched to Among Us, which was the first game of the week ever that we did.
Yeah, it was one of the first games we ever did for the podcast, and it was one of our favorites, so
yes.
it was an easy decision to kind of hop back into that one when we needed something to play anyways on stream. So
yeah,
I know we've been talking about it. We've been wanting to get back into that a little bit, and so it was a good chance to do that.
Yep, it has pretty high repeatability, as I remembered.
Sure, yeah, I guess that's why we went back to it. But yeah, that was what the stream was like. It would I guess the second half would be a lot better. Maybe the first few minutes of Gang Beasts was pretty fun and entertaining. Just as we kind of figured out what the heck we were doing and yelling and screaming about what was going on. But
it was challenging. I mean, the controls were challenging, even for a keyboard.
Well, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I never really figured it out. So I was just pressing buttons and seeing what happened.
Fair enough. But yeah, we definitely wouldn't be reviewing Gang Beasts for the game of the week. We would choose another game, and you can probably watch the stream this coming Tuesday on YouTube at 9:30 p.m. Central. Catch us there.
You can also catch the podcast episodes on any other streaming platform. And speaking of those, if you don't mind giving us a review and a rating, and if you do write a review, we promise to read it, whether it is good or bad. And that said, we did have a review on Apple Podcasts. This one was actually from a while ago, but we just decided to read these out in the open here. So if you don't want us to read it, you can say so. We'll be sure not to. But we did have a review to share, and this is a good one. So it's good to start off on a good, healthy note like that. But it was a review by a friend of the podcast, The Handsome Weirdo.
Woohoo!
The review saying, I enjoyed your first episode. It felt like meeting new neighbors. I also like the fact you play WoW. World of Warcraft for short. If you're going to Wrathy Basin sometime, let me know. As for the podcast, nice way to start your gaming podcast career.
That's sweet.
Thank you, Handsome Weirdo, for the good review.
Thank you.
We appreciate it and the kind words.
Yeah, we did.
If you want us to read whatever you write, go ahead and give us a review. And preferably 4 or 5 stars. Sounds good.
But either way, if it is a bad review, we'll take it as a constructive criticism. Right, Kev?
We promise not to hold it against you or hold a grudge. Anyways, that's the only review we had to go over this time, right now. But kind of jumping back into the social media, Twitter is probably the newest platform for us to kind of be on right now. And I was kind of browsing that a little bit and came across a random tweet by somebody that we don't know, not even following them or anything, but talking about how he canceled his World of Warcraft subscription just because he had stopped playing and met
the love of his life.
Yeah, so he stopped playing and met and married his wife and is now expecting their first son.
Congrats.
Which is amazing. That's awesome to see and everything. And so that's kind of the reason for quitting World of Warcraft. and kind of coming out saying that he's never going to go back to it, all that, which is, I mean, I respect that decision. And I think that's something that a lot of new parents struggle with. You know, when they have previously spent time gaming and then you get married and have a kid and your life just completely changes.
Yeah.
You know, and this is something that kind of got us thinking, and we've been thinking about this kind of stuff for a long time, or at least I know that I have.
Me
Of
too, I
how
have.
how do you fit, you know, your previous history of gaming as a hobby into your new life that you're trying to define as a mother or a father, and kind of how do you juggle it all between both of those, because they're both time consuming. And you know, obviously you can't try and have a family and ignore your family, but then, you know, if you're still trying to game a lot, that takes time too. So trying to find some kind of healthy balance out of it all, and figuring out your identity as a parent and what that means for your other hobbies.
That is true. Really got us discussing about it for this past few days, and we thought that would be a great topic for this podcast episode, which is episode 16. So that's what we have decided to talk about.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a good topic. It's a somewhat deeper than the normal stuff that we're talking about, but it's something that's really important. And I think there's definitely varying views on this. I think like I kind of mentioned in the very first episode that we had growing up, I always thought that once I have kids, that I would not be gaming anymore, that would take all of my time. The old gaming hobby that I had would be out the window, and I would have to spend all of that time and more with my wife and kids and everything, and that gaming couldn't exist with a family of my own. So that was kind of the viewpoint I had going into it. And then, you know, obviously before getting married and having kids, you have no idea what it's like until you actually get there. And, you know, even still, it's tougher than I ever imagined, you know. And then there's other people who believe that, you know, you can still have one and the other, that you don't have to completely give up your hobbies, you know, when you do get married and start having kids. So there's different groups, I think, for this. And I have kind of felt in both at varying times.
Depends on your season in life.
But for me, gaming before getting married, I used to game all the time. You know, I'd get off of work, go home, maybe hang out for a little bit, and then, you know, hop on the computer or, you know, play the PlayStation pretty soon into it.
All right. So I'm a very technical person. So if I were to quantify it, like imagine 100% of your time, right? How many percent of that 100% would you say you would spend on gaming before you met me, like when you were single?
I mean, it was pretty easy for me to spend 5 or 6 hours a day gaming. I mean, unless like I had other plans that day, but I mean, it was sleep, work, and game were kind of the main three things to spend time on.
Okay, so that's roughly like, let's say 6 hours, and then excluding sleep, obviously, and stuff, that would be like about 60%, excluding sleep and work, I mean. That would be like, no, actually 70%.
Well, yeah, if you're excluding work and sleep, and I guess
Because-
that probably leaves about 8 hours left.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was most of the time if you're excluding those
Yeah.
two things.
Excluding sleep and work, because that's like the constant post kids and pre me. So
Yeah, I mean, there were days where I wouldn't play games at all, but most of the time, if I didn't have other plans, then yeah, you bet I was either playing League of Legends or World of Warcraft or Call of Duty or, you know, other games. But I almost always would play them with friends, if that helps. But you know, that, at least that's how I preferred to play them.
gotcha. So
But yeah,
that's
no,
like,
I definitely spent a lot of time before meeting you, you know, on playing different games. So
right, so that's, let's say that's 60% before dating life. So after dating and after marriage, how many percent would you say, or how many hours? Then I'll convert it for you to percentage. But how many hours would you say you spent on gaming after we got together? And this is before kids.
before kids, But it was probably, I mean, most days I didn't even game when we were together just because we either spent a lot of time doing other stuff and we didn't really, I don't think I really sold myself like as a big gamer. Like when we were dating, like I think you knew I did, but it wasn't like I kind of substituted a lot of that gaming time to doing other stuff with you or going to the movies or hanging out or going out to eat and all this kind of like dating and courting stuff that kind of replaced the time I spent gaming. Because we didn't game together at that point, remember? For whatever reason.
We did Hearthstone
That wasn't like right away. That came like a while later, right?
3 or 4 months later, but after kids, I mean, like freshly after having our first child, and
Well, I think the main difference was after kids, everything was about the kids.
yeah,
And I think we made that switch and we went through that for a while, long enough until we realized like we needed to focus like on each other as well and like have an activity together.
on our sanity.
And that's kind of when we like decided, well, let's put some time and effort and money into kind of putting together a game room where we can spend time together when the kids are asleep.
And mind you, this was during COVID. It's not like you have a whole bunch of outings or places to go during the lockdown, remember? So
Yeah, that's true. But I wouldn't use that as my own excuse, just because this is kind of what I would have preferred anyways, whether it was a pandemic or not. But I definitely understand how that's a big point for you.
Yes.
We have very different personalities too, so.
You're more introverted. I'm more of an outgoing person.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's.
Yeah. Plus, after having kids, time for yourself is like almost non-existent. So
You have to try a lot harder when you have kids to find time for yourself
and for each other.
for your spouse. And that's important because if you're focused on the kids all the time, which don't get me wrong, you need to focus on your kids. It gets exhausted by the time you're done. So you kind of need to have a plan of you could be working on the kids all day, and then as soon as they're done for the night, like you may just be exhausted at that point. You're ready to just go to sleep, and kind of you wake up the next day and you do the same thing over and over again, and you kind of feel like you're ignoring your spouse, and you feel like your spouse is ignoring you, and
and you're resentful towards each other. You'll always be thinking like.
Or towards your kids even.
Yeah, or towards your kids, because you're always like thinking that, they're not contributing, or it's just hard, or just
You feel like
sucking the life out of you.
You're not getting the same kind of attention from
Exactly.
Your significant other like you were before the kids. And it's a huge change, and it's tough and it's difficult.
Well, it is only like for the first 5 years, I think, of your kids' life that it's the hardest, and then it gets easier. But right now we're in that 3-year mark of having kids, or is it 4? Almost 4. So it's getting better, and that's why we could do this.
Yeah, and when did we start gaming together? Because I think I'm kind of remember like at one point we had decided like that's kind of how we wanted to spend some of our time together. This was before we even started the podcast, but we used to, I think we started off playing like World of Warcraft together.
Yeah.
And, moved on to kind of other games. But that was like okay, every night we're going to go to our game room and, turn on our PCs and pick a game to play together. And
we started it last year, like late of 2020 and early 2021.
And so what we did before that was probably what a lot of couples do today. You remember kind of what that was, what we used to do a lot more often?
What was it?
Well, I remember us watching a lot more TV or shows or movies. That's kind of what we did before the kids.
Netflix.
Or after the kids went to sleep, watched a lot of Netflix. And then we kind of switched things up. And we haven't, done that, watched shows in a long time. What do you think about the differences between then versus now?
I'll choose gaming over Netflix. Only because there's more communication involved, there's a shared interest, there's bonding, and I don't know, just a lot to talk about through gaming more than Netflix. I mean, you don't really talk much during a movie, Will.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy our gaming sessions more than Netflix.
Yeah, I enjoy this a lot more because it's a lot more interactive between the two of us. And I guess I'm just talking about like the gaming specifically. Not, I mean, we do a lot of stuff outside of gaming in here, related to the content that we're doing or the podcast. But specifically to gaming, I like that way more because we end up talking to each other a lot more, and we end up like laughing a lot more, and we generate a lot of inside jokes and all kinds of stuff that I think the whole Netflix kind of thing was fun, but I think this is way better for us, like you mentioned, bonding and as our relationship goes.
Yeah, but Netflix was pretty good for like new parents and stuff like that when we like really don't have enough sleep or energy to game at night, Our kid was like 3 months old and
Yeah, there's stages like if you have a newborn where you need all the sleep that you can get. So if your kids are sleeping and you're tired, like you need to sleep too, if you can.
if you can.
And I mean, maybe you have family nearby or babysitters or someone that you can trust to watch your kid while you kind of pour some time and focus into your loved ones. But
I used to like get so annoyed when people tell me when I just had like a newborn and I'm a new mom back then, and people tell me when the baby sleeps you sleep, and I'm like, no, when the baby sleeps I have laundry to do, I have house to clean up, dishes to wash, and I want to shower, I need to pump my milk. It's like just so much stuff to do as a mother, and it was just like so overwhelming when people say that. But yeah, at night, instead of having a full 8 hours sleep, once a baby comes to your life, you get naps. That's what people tell me. You get naps, like you get maybe 3 times 2 hour naps and stuff. And appreciate your sleep while you can. Not trying to scare you. It's fun. It's nice to have that bonding moments. But yeah, it definitely drains you, and definitely we weren't like gaming back then because of the lack of sleep as well.
yeah, I think if you are a gamer and maybe you have a kid on the way, just be ready for changes, but it's manageable and you just need to be able to adapt a little bit and kind of work through the stages in a way that works best for you and your significant other to handle the new challenges that you're going to have as parents, and still from time to time work in any old hobbies that you have, like for us gaming. And if you do feel like you can't handle everything without completely giving up gaming, that's fine too, like this other person did, unsubscribing from their favorite game of a long time, because of all the new stuff in their life.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. If you feel like you need to do that and go that route, then you can, and you can always return to something in the future if you have time for it and if things get easier. So you just need to be able to adapt. You want to be careful not to be too addicted to something that you can't step away from it when you really need to. So just be ready to adapt if you need to.
And that's why we're giving the reviews on the games that we're playing, because the reviews are mostly based on how convenient it is for gamer parents to play. Like, is it something you can easily step away from when the baby needs your attention? And how it improves the communication between you and your spouse, how fun it is, how repeatable it is. So definitely check out our game reviews, and before you decide to play it or buy it, and then you can hear our thoughts on it first.
Yeah, and I think kind of related to that, games that at least that I like to play now as a parent are completely different, because I went from having 5-6 hours a day that I could put into a game to now like maybe like 1 to 2 a day. And obviously there's some days where we don't game at all, so that brings it down, that average down a lot. But just the time that we have to put into games is just a lot less than it used to be. And this is just like during the week. On the weekend I used to game like a lot more,
I know.
and it's still like 1 to 2 hours on the weekends
Like
here. So
Kevin, the old Kevin that I know, could like game till like 3 or 4 a.m. Not a
Well,
problem at all.
I mean, I could have, but I didn't really do that just because mess up your sleep schedule, even before marriage and everything. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people do that.
Not so much when you're parent.
Well, yeah, you can't.
Yeah. But don't let our thoughts on how parenting changed your gaming life stop you from having kids or getting married. It is definitely very rewarding long term.
Yeah, it's definitely it trumps any achievement or Easter egg in game or any final boss kill or anything like that. Having kids is extremely rewarding and loving, and if you always dreamt of being a parent one day, then yeah, that's how you got to do it. But yeah, it's just something that people are tied to their hobbies and their games, and a lot of people are big time gamers, and sometimes it's tough to be a big time gamer and a big time dad or mom at the same time. It's just a kind of a little bit of a balancing act there, and that's kind of all we're talking about.
Yeah, just the balance itself. Especially like at least you only have like one hobby, right? I mean like most of the time your hobby is gaming and music. Yeah, but music is what we're putting on hold at the moment. And then I have like a lot of other hobbies. I'm into fitness stuff as well. I'm into music, I'm into comics and gaming. So it's like I have to juggle it all. At least right now, it's mostly like cooking out of the WoW World of Warcraft cookbook. And then there's the gaming part review and content creating review for KJ After Dark. So it's really fun. Something to, kind of hold my personality together while also being a mom. What do you think?
Yeah, I think looking for ways when things do get easier with our kids, like we were kind of at the point, our 3-year-old, he's not as difficult to or as time consuming as he used to be. Our 1-year-old still adds a little bit to that, but I think for the fact that we have kind of decided to move forward with the podcast idea, and we're doing that together, and kind of running all the social media stuff together. It gives us a lot more to talk about. That's not always just about the kids or, our day at work or day here at home or, what's going on. But it's kind of adds a little bit of additional flavor and kind of keeps our days more interesting. And
Yep.
we have something that we're working together on, and we have kind of like a united goal and we do with the kids and everything also, but it's going to add something new and fun and creative for us to work on. So
Yeah.
I think it's nice to have an activity like that with your spouse and something that you can kind of celebrate together. I mean, there's times like whenever we hit milestones with number of, weekly downloads or views or likes, or when we get a nice review, we get to celebrate that together, or
Keeps us going, knowing that we're encouraging other gamer couples out there too who are possibly going to be gamer parents in the future or even current gamer parents out there.
yeah, and it's yeah, that's kind of what it's all about, right? That's kind of what's motivating us, right? Is that we want to build up other people and maybe even add some community members and make friends and hear other people's stories and be able to share our story, right? Like that's why we're doing this. That's what's fun to us, and we get to join everybody in that and celebrate those things together. And that's kind of what we're really looking forward to. At least I am. I don't know. Do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I just want to like knock down and break down, tear down that myth that, like if you're a gamer parent, your marriage is not, I don't know what, like a lot of marriages would fail because you're gamers or something like that. But I don't think that's true. I think it's all about finding that healthy balance as well as communicating with one another. That's what we want to contribute to the community who are gamers.
Yeah, if you are a big time gamer and you're not dating anybody yet or you haven't married anybody yet, if you never want to give it up, then you should find somebody else who likes to game too, and then that way you can game together, bond together. That can be your activity, a way to spend time. Because I know, like when you weren't really playing games, Joanne, like I wasn't really either, and the amount of times for me to kind of get away and find someplace else to play games without you didn't happen very often.
Mm-hmm.
And only so like when we you were kind of busy with your own thing, so I would go do my own thing. that's kind of the only times where I would go do that. But when we're both doing it together, it's like, oh yeah, let's do it. But like, I'm not gonna go spend every night gaming without you. That kind of defeats the whole purpose of being married. So, it's having somebody special to do this with makes it way better, way more important,
way more fun.
Yeah, it's the bonding of it, and the games are fun themselves too.
And speaking,
the bonding is important.
And speaking of which, since this week is Mother's Day, I just want to wish all the gamer moms out there happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all mothers who are listening. Happy Mother's Day to my mom and to your mom, Joanne.
And to me.
Yes. Of course, to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that motherhood is definitely not for the faint of heart. And it just gives me a whole new perspective to gamer moms out there as well. Like, I know they're struggling also, just like I am, to juggle between finding time for their own games and also to raise their family. You're all doing great out there.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne, for saying that. That's definitely something that, it's good to take this time to celebrate moms and thank them for everything that they do. One day a year is not enough to celebrate everything that moms do for us, and how awesome they all are and what they do for their families and their kids and their husbands and everything. So I definitely can speak to what you do around here, that you are huge, and we would never get through this with everything that we're going through without you. So happy Mother's Day to you as well, and thank you to all the moms out there.
So I guess that's all for now, right?
I think that was all we had on this topic. I feel like this was a pretty good amount that we had to talk on it, and we kind of went on a few different tangents there. Mm-hmm. But that's all we're going to have for this time. Check out next week. We will have a game review. Mm-hmm. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but there should be a review.
Yes.
And that's all we have for you guys this week. We will check you in the next one.
Bye.